There's one place you find on a tourist map of DC and its lovely suburbs. And that's the cozy little villa known as Old Olney. Ah, but you locals, you know the place, am I right? It's become a veritable wasteland legend. Why? 'Cause it's filled with goddamn Deathclaws. I met a guy once. Name was Johnny 12 Fingers. Had one arm. Turns out the other one was ripped off while he was scavenging in Deathclaw Central. Lucky he made it out alive. Most people don't. At least not in one piece.
If that dog would have killed me, I would have actually cried. Man, I think that encounter perfectly encapsulated my entire experience at this location. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Capitol Wasteland. The Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be checking out Old Olney, albeit we are a very low level. Now, Old Olney is one of the most difficult locations within Fallout 3, but I decided to go ahead and try and tackle it early just to get it out of the way, and what happened was a completely unforgettable experience, and one of the most fun memories I have in Fallout 3. So, let's dive into Old Olney. Now, Old Olney is located in the northeast corner of the Capitol Wasteland. It's pretty close to Vault 92 and the Republic of Dave. Now, on the southern part of Old Olney, we can find a residential area. There are several burnt-out houses that have obviously decayed after the years following the Great War. Perhaps they were destroyed in the immediate aftermath of the Great War, or perhaps they just crumbled over time. Doesn't really matter to us though, as there's no real loot within any of these buildings. However, up by this house I found a lawnmower, and you can actually loot the lawnmower and get a lawnmower blade, which I thought was pretty cool. Since I'm more familiar with Fallout New Vegas, you can get these blades pretty easily, but I've never actually known where they come from. Here we can see the source in Fallout 3. Now, obviously, as you saw in the beginning, this place is famous for Deathclaws, and oh boy, are there a lot of Deathclaws. And since I'm a low level, this really forced me to try and get creative using grenades and landmines, weapons I don't typically use in Fallout, in order to try and kill the Deathclaws. So I actually really enjoyed this challenge, trying to use anything at my disposal in order to combat the Deathclaws. And during this, I learned two things. One, bottle cap mines are seriously overpowered. It is something I definitely underestimate in the first Fallout 3 playthroughs I ever did as a kid. And also that Deathclaw pathing is very glitchy in this game. I think in Fallout New Vegas, the Deathclaw pathing seems much better. Deathclaws get caught on a lot of things in this game. Doorways, and they have trouble getting to the player if the player is elevated. So as you can see here, the Deathclaw is just kind of walking around in circles. He finally got inside, but since I crippled his leg, he wasn't able to do anything to me. And then we were down one Deathclaw. But don't you worry, there are plenty more Deathclaws for us to fight. Now, Old Olney seems to be in very rough condition. All of the buildings have been destroyed, and perhaps it used to have some importance before the Great War. In real life, Old Olney is based on the real-world city of Olney, Maryland, which is the location of the Olney Federal Support Center, which is an underground continuity of the U.S. government during an emergency. So, some real-life implications. And perhaps the Chinese government targeted this location because of its importance. Also nearby is Vault 92. Now, there's a lot of streets here that the Deathclaws appear kind of just randomly. I couldn't find any sound paths that they took. Sometimes I found them, sometimes I didn't. just kind of like a maze and luck of the draw. And then in the center of town, we can find a sort of encampment with a lot of mutilated bodies, some ammunition, and a medical kit. Now, this is actually a pretty interesting part of the city because during the quest Election Day, and if you make it so that President Dave of the Republic of Dave does not get reelected, he will make his way to Old Olney and declare this the new Republic of Dave, provided he doesn't get killed by some Deathclaws. And over on this wall, we can see some Vault Tech propaganda posters, and of course nearby is Vault 92, so citizens of Olney would have had easy access to a vault. Then on the southeastern part of the map, we can find another Deathclaw that hangs out behind the fire station. Now in front of the fire station, we can find a skeleton, and this skeleton belonged to Carl Wallace, who was a Nuka-Cola truck driver during the Great War. And he was actually used for a promotional Nuka-Cola truck during the release of Fallout 4 that you could actually buy his truck. And we can also find a note next to his body titled the Nuka-Cola Accident Report, which reads, "I was driving on the highway east of Old Olney near the gas station, and suddenly a deer ran out in front of my rig. I swerved to avoid hitting it, but my brakes locked up, and I ended up jackknifing against the guardrail. I was in the process of delivering a very important shipment to the Old Olney grocery, so I have called and requested an immediate pickup in front of Old Olney's firehouse. I will wait there until the tow truck arrives. There's been some breakage, but the special shipment is still intact. I am not injured, but the truck is likely a total loss. This is my first incident of this nature with the company. I hope it will not reflect poorly on my future evaluations. Carl Wallace, Nuka-Cola Corporation, driver 09899, Department SH03. And if we head east of Old Olney, we can find his truck along with a lucrative supply of Nuka-Cola Quantum. But before we can do that, we have some Deathclaws to fight. And this time I was caught off guard as I was just kind of enjoying and exploring around. Thankfully, this Deathclaw just ran off for some reason as I got near the debris. The Deathclaws in Old Olney really do not like it when the player character goes near debris, but then he snuck up on me anyway and scared the shit out of me. But thankfully he couldn't get in through this door, so I was able to zap him a lot using my laser rifle, which I found to be extremely effective against Deathclaws. And using this doorway, I was eventually able to kill the Deathclaw, but he did get some good hits on me, and he almost killed me here. I thought I was actually going to die, but thankfully this entrance here is too low. After that, I went to go check to see if he was the Firehouse Deathclaw, which he wasn't, and I made another very important discovery. So if you've watched previous episodes of the Unexplored Mojave, you know that Deathclaw Jesus is very real, and that he is determined to torment me with his magical abilities. And this Deathclaw at the firehouse happened to be the reincarnation. After that terrifying encounter, I decided to finally head east, not west, of Old Olney, but not before showing you this grater. You have to be really careful with this grater as it serves as a trap, and if you fall down there, you're really in a bad position as you have to fight a Deathclaw. Next to City Hall, we can find a dead mercenary who had some ammunition and a stim pack on him, which would be very useful later on. Also, I wanted to point out something I really like about Fallout 3 are the overpasses. In Fallout New Vegas, the overpasses are purely just aesthetic. Even if you use glitches, you cannot actually get on top of them. But in Fallout 3, they are actual things that you can usually climb and get on top of and get some very beautiful shots of the world. So I know Fallout 3 gets a lot of hate sometimes, but just something I wanted to point out that I kind of like about the game, even if it's a really small detail. As we made our way east, we found a gas station with various Talon Company mercs.
If it isn't the little saint from the vault, we've been looking for you. Someone's put quite a price on your head. What? You think you can walk around the wasteland doing the things that you do, and there isn't going to be someone who takes notice? Such a shame. I hear that you could have been something useful. Ah, well, time to die. Ha ha! No, I don't think so.
I thought this was a really cool random encounter. Fallout 3 has a lot of really cool random encounters, and it actually adds a little bit more story to the Talon Company, which I really appreciate. However, one of them, I incapacitated his head, or crippled his head, and he kind of just gave up and let me kill him, so that was nice of him. Then on one of the ash piles, I found a private contract with a bounty that said kill John H. Otter, which is of course me, and it's just a bounty for your player character if you've chosen the right path, or not right path, the good karma path in this game. And then here on the mini-map, you can see the actual location of the crashed truck in case you only want to visit this location and not deal with the actual Deathclaws. We can find several Nuka-Cola Quantum in here, which is of course very good for the quest, the Nuka-Cola Challenge. And to be precise, there are 5 bottles of Nuka-Cola Quantum here, along with 26 bottles of just regular Nuka-Cola. So pretty cool, pretty interesting, and a really fascinating location within Fallout 3, albeit it is unmarked. After investigating this truck and getting my Nuka-Cola Quantum, I decided to head back to Old Olney to walk around and explore a bit to see what this town had to offer. Now this seems to be a very downtown area with an apartment building, but there's not much residential area within the city itself. So probably a lot of business and a lot of corporation in the city. And I also was trying to figure out why there are so many Deathclaws here. From what I could figure, or from what I could find on the internet, it appears that there was just a Deathclaw nest very close to the city, and therefore the Deathclaws invaded the city. Now, based on what we read earlier about there being a government facility here in the underground, I might assume that the Chinese dropped an atomic bomb here. It was highly irradiated, and so the Deathclaws made their way here because they like radiation. I tried to make my way into the sewer from here, but I couldn't open the manhole. So I decided to come over here to the trap and try my luck. And what ensued was one of the most terrifying, most difficult 30 minutes of Fallout 3, or any Fallout game for that matter, that I've ever had. Inside this room, there is a Deathclaw just waiting for you, and he beat the shit out of me the first time. It was really going to take some special thinking in order to get past him. The next time around, I tried a line of landmines along with a couple of grenades being lobbed at the Deathclaw. This strategy seemed to work the best because the Deathclaw does not just have a straight path, right? The path will vary depending on various factors. Now, I was terrified that the Deathclaw was just going to come out this door and kill me. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But upon entering, I encountered him immediately, and I was trying to cripple his leg, which I was able to do. However, he cornered me and killed me. But I knew by crippling his leg, I could probably get around him and then finish him off. So as we can see here again, the Deathclaw walked over the mine as I loaded the save again, and I was able to cripple his leg. Then I used a stealth boy in order to sneak around him, and I was able to kill him pretty easily because of how slow he walked. So, kind of had to use some creativity and all of my resources in order to defeat this Deathclaw. However, I was not prepared for what was actually in the sewers. As soon as I opened this door, I found another Deathclaw, and very thankfully, he got caught on the door. And this door was very important to completing the sewers. Inside this room, we can find a locked terminal, which, upon hacking, will grant us a friendly Protectron. However, this Protectron is absolutely useless, and I have no clue why he's even in this part of the game, as one hit from a Deathclaw will render him useless. As I made my way further down the sewer, I found another Deathclaw. I shot at him a bit before I ran away. The Deathclaw got in one strike, which would be important later, and then he murdered my friend with one swipe. Now, again, like I said earlier, this doorway would prove instrumental in completing the Old Olney's sewers, as Deathclaws cannot get through. Now, as I came down to the bottom part of the sewer and opened up this double door, I found out there was yet another Deathclaw waiting inside. And this Deathclaw would give me the most trouble. And because I just could never outrun him. But as I kept trying, each attempt got a little bit better. After several attempts, I was finally able to kill the Deathclaw. Out of every Deathclaw location I visited, this one gave me the most trouble by far, even more than locations like Deathclaw Promontory and Fallout New Vegas. But inside this room, there wasn't a whole lot. Now, there is a very hard locked door, and you have to have 100 lockpick to open it, and inside we can find a mini nuke, but I don't have 100 lockpick. Then my worst fears were realized when I turned a corner and found another Deathclaw, who promptly ended my life. Now this time I knew I was going to have to get more creative, as this Deathclaw was simply too far away from the door of safety for me to run away. So what I did was I took my armor off, which increases the player's speed by a little bit. When the Deathclaw got close, I switched my armor on so the hit didn't immediately kill me, and this proved to work pretty well actually, as I was then able to kill the Deathclaw. So again, using all of my resources, using some kind of, Todd Howard game logic along with some creativity, and we were able to kill almost all of the Deathclaws in the sewers. However, at this point I had very low health and I had no stim packs, but I wanted to finish it, and I actually at this point thought all of the Deathclaws were probably dead. However, as we will see here in a little bit, I failed to look at my radar. And as you can see here, as I picked up this scoped magnum, there was a red dot on my radar. However, I did not see him. So I just kept going along my merry way, thinking the coast was clear, and I entered this room full of dead bodies. And little did I know I would soon join them.
Gotcha, bitch!
So with no health, how was I going to defeat this Deathclaw? Well, it was going to come down to luck. One, I got lucky the Deathclaw didn't hit me there, and then I was just scared to death that this Deathclaw was going to walk into this room and kill me. But thankfully, that is not what happened. For whatever reason, the Deathclaw got glitched out in his pathing, and he started just running away from me. He was just as terrified of me as I was of him. So thankfully, he just ran away, and I was able to use my 44 scope magnum, newly acquired, might I add, in order to finish him off. He ran into the back of this cave, and I was able to kill him. And finally, I was able to claim victory over the Old Olney sewers. In this room, we can find a dead Brotherhood of Steel with prototype medic power armor, which is really good as it injects you with med-X and alerts you to danger and just makes funny comments during combat. Then inside this room where the Deathclaw was, we can find Nuka-Cola Quantum, a missile launcher, and a Fat Man. My first Fat Man in the game, and no doubt a very special weapon for me. There's also various safes that we can unlock, but there isn't a whole lot in them besides some caps, pre-war money, and ammunition. Then we use the bed to heal up, and we could go to the back of the cave where that Deathclaw chose to die. Now, the back of this cave is interesting because we can find a skill book, Duck and Cover, along with a dead skeleton that appears to be trying to dig his way out of the sewers with a wooden spoon. Quite a funny scene, and I always love what Bethesda and Obsidian did with these caves and just making funny scenes of people trying to do something in a cave. We can also find a manual for the power armor, and it just explains how the power armor works, and you can now wear the power armor. And I actually really like this power armor because I can find its comments to be quite humorous. After leaving the sewers, I decided to head back to my home in Megaton to get everything organized and to offload some of my loot, and then I would return the next day to continue my mission. Fully healed, well rested, and having more ammunition, I felt very confident returning to Old Olney. This time I found out that there were 2 Deathclaws that were still alive, so I decided to go ahead and kill them. Now this Deathclaw decided to just kind of give up, and he just decided to run into this wall before he turned away and then jumped over my head. Now this Deathclaw gave me a little bit of trouble, but I was able to kill him pretty effortlessly. And then using our newly acquired Fat Man, I was able to kill the second Deathclaw. And I have to say, the progression here just felt so good. Going from dealing with Deathclaws with almost nothing to having a Fat Man in order to kill them was very rewarding. It felt like I grew a lot as a player. It felt like I was actually progressing. So some very cool and memorable experiences for me in Fallout 3. And then there's my Fat Man to kill that Deathclaw. Very satisfying. And then as I was making my way to record one last scenic shot, I found one more Deathclaw just running around, and no problem for one mini nuke. So there you have it, Old Olney, a very cool location in Fallout 3, and it's actually a location I didn't remember very well from my first playthrough. Fallout 3 is a game that I played as a child. It was my first ever Fallout game. However, despite that, I don't remember it all so well, and I just fell in love with Fallout New Vegas more than Fallout 3, but I have had a ton of fun replaying Fallout 3, and I really enjoy exploring the world and making these videos. So if you have any recommendations for the next location in the Unexplored Capitol Wasteland, please post them in the comments section below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and liking and commenting and subscribing. This channel has grown so much recently, and I feel like I don't say thank you enough. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you everyone who supports and watches this channel. And as always, until next time.